Okay. So next question is for both speakers. How do you think Indonesia has done so far compared to the smart city initiatives in other countries? Let's start with Clarissa.
So I want to ask questions for both, I guess. This is more related in terms of your business model, right? So for Qlue, is definitely it's like B2G, B2B. For Seekmi, you kind of evolve from B2C and then B2B, right? How do you what do you think is the advantage of each business model? So let's first start with Rama first. I mean, like for you, I think it's comparing of between B2G and then B2B.
Um, what was the question?
Like,
Breaking up.
what's the advantage or disadvantage of B2G or B2B? You know, comparing between both
Oh,
model.
both? Yeah. So for B2B, the good thing is, okay, so let's start from B2G. So we started off B2G. The good thing about B2G is it's budget allocated per year. So it's for sure already that it will be dispersed once your work is done. You know, and they will payment is no problem. A lot of people think, oh my God, you're playing and I mean like you're doing B2G solutions. Does the government even pay you? You know, things like that. This is like something that they always ask me. I don't know how come they get that kind of assumption. But to be honest with you, government is um, the most perform payer. Or yeah, they pay on time, always within that year as well because it's already budget allocated and but usually it's just happened to be end of year. But the problem is with government, it's the recurring, right? The project has to be perpetual, so it cannot be like five-year projects with the government, and then you know it has to be like every year we have to win a tender, we win a tender again, and so on. But while with B2B, it's more recurring. But sometimes during this like COVID-19 situations, they're like, oh yeah, we don't have any money, you know, things like that. So you know, not only during this COVID-19, but sometimes it happens also in other situations because for whatever happen it is or whatever reason it is. So I think it's for us both we have to like juggle between the both, find the equilibrium between B2G and B2B. B2B is more sustainable, but B2G when you get a project, it's one thing. It's gonna be a lot bigger than B2B, that's for sure. But the sustainability will be a problem. And also, if you're doing like fundraising heavily for your startup, a lot of VCs will see B2G as a problem as well. It's not sustainable. It's unpredictable. You know, things like that. So they will see it as disadvantage or maybe liabilities in a way. So you have to really build your B2B pipeline, even though it's not as big as B2G, but build your B2B pipeline more seriously in order to achieve sustainability. If you just want to have like 2 or 3 projects and then just close your company, just keep doing B2G, that probably would be the best way. But for sustainability, if you want to build an empire or legacy for your company, that's B2B. I think it's the way. But yes, keep the two, you know, both, yeah, both industries.
So like it's more like balance each other because like B2G is something that you can generate revenue and like maybe like bigger revenue in the beginning.
Yes.
Although maybe like for future cash flow, for future revenue, there is not much value, right? So that's what I think deter a lot of VC as well because like
Yeah.
I mean like what's the future value of this contract, right?
Right.
But B2B has that recurring, more sustainable. Although I mean like if you see now with the COVID, a lot of like companies probably like close down
Yeah.
as well, right? You hear companies that have been around for a long time and still
Yeah.
fail as well.
Yes, find the best moments for both. So in a way, you'll sustain, I think.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, bro. So, how about Clarissa? I mean, like you started off as B2C company, right? And then along the way, you kind of like added B2B, although you still maintain both. And what do you see now? I mean, like after like running
Yes.
B2B for a while.
Yeah. So for us, as you know, we started off as a purely B2C company helping individual households. And now we help a lot of businesses with their services as well after gaining a lot of knowledge and experience and reputation in the B2C space, providing high quality services. So in terms of the two, and this is what I see and also what other people say is for B2C, you own a strong brand. So you can build on that brand and you can offer a lot of additional products and services with that brand, and you don't have to you can be the one setting the pricing. Obviously the market still dictates whether they will choose your service or product based on the pricing, but you can dictate the pricing to the end customer. And then you have also a lot of control over the vendor side. But I think the core thing that a lot of businesses, when they see B2C, is that they can really own that brand and really diversify on that brand. Whereas B2B, it's I think a lot of B2C companies are finding that B2B, as Rama also mentioned, is that you get a more stable business because businesses generally have they have more recurring business for the business, and they also can open up different opportunities that the B2C side doesn't provide. But the downside is that you lose sometimes control over the SOP. You have to abide by the business's SOPs. Also, you lose the branding because sometimes you actually operate under different brands, or you are no longer at the forefront of what the customer, through the customer journey, they no longer really recognize you as delivering the service to them, the end customer. So I would say both are very interesting business models, and I still am very happy that we start off as a B2C company, because that's actually where we're able to really build our expertise and knowledge, and now we can apply that into the B2B world, where you really do need a solid foundation and you really need a lot of history in delivering high quality services. So I think both models are very good. In terms of financials, I think a lot of people see the B2C side requires a lot more investment in terms of marketing, and you hope to recoup that by having that customer come back very frequently. On the B2B side, it's more on the sales side, whether the sales cycle is short, and whether that acquisition cost of that customer is justifies the type of revenue that and gross margins that you can obtain from the business clients. So that's kind of the advantages and disadvantages of the B2B versus B2C.
If let's say you have to give an advice to someone who wants to start like a startup in the beginning, where it has that angle of doing B2C or B2B, would you say to start with both right away, or one, or which one?
I think it really depends on the business model, and it depends on the founder. So for founders that are very much more on they love to just do analytics and such, that would and the business model also kind of can be the business model. You can take advantage of the business model through looking at analytics. Then the B2C is very good, because digital marketing is a lot about using analytical techniques in order to monitor the customer behavior, see whether your ads are performing, and then seeing, even like really closely monitoring the clicks on your app, the website, seeing where there's drop-offs and such. So that's more on the B2C side. And on the B2B side, it's purely on whether you can close a sale through building relationships, building your customer pipeline, being able to persuade customers to choose your service offering over your competitor service offering. So the type of skills and the type of how you even operate the business is so different, because for B2C, you have to offer good customer service, but when you do B2B, client service you have to, it's like a completely different level in terms of the client service. Like maybe you can offer the best service, but your client's service is actually not that good. So you wouldn't be able to retain that customer, versus B2C, sometimes they don't really need you to constantly message them and such. If they like your service, they will just keep using you, and the touch point is very, very low on the B2C versus B2B. So I'm not sure which one I would recommend. I think it really depends on the founder and also the business model. But I think both are, for Seekmi, because we've had employees that have seen both, is that they actually really like the B2B side, because they see that it really feels like, you actually are talking to a client, and you really see that change for the client side. Whereas B2C, sometimes you can't go to all the houses and see the changes that you've been able to make. So yeah, I mean, both are great. And I think it depends on the financials and also the environment of fundraising, because sometimes sometimes investors really look at unit economics, and sometimes B2C just doesn't provide that as well as on the B2B side.
Okay. So it's more like it depends. Also, I guess it depends on how much funding you get as well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like for B2C, you will need a lot of like marketing, right? So
yeah, exactly. So there are certain B2C startups that can go viral and don't require a lot of marketing. But then I think what we see for a lot of the ones that are like O2O, like the Gojeks, the Grab, the Tokopedia, there does need to be a lot of marketing spend and also retention spend by providing a lot of promos and such. So we've seen in Indonesia, a lot of the B2C companies require a lot of funding in order to grow and to continue to grow. Whereas B2B, sometimes you don't really even, maybe you can just bootstrap sometimes to grow your business, because all you need is the service, which sometimes you can offer without much cost, and then you just have to be able to close a sale. So it really just depends on the founder. They can close a sale themselves. Whereas B2C, you still need some, unless you're very good at social media marketing, like free organic marketing, you do need to spend marketing dollars, and through Google and Facebook, you have to compete with a lot of other businesses that are also trying to bid on the same customer segment, and you need money for that.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, thank you. So Ardi, please take the next question.
I have one question for each. So let's start with Rama from Otto. What is your guiding principle in applying facial recognition in the public sector to avoid being abused or creating other ethical implications? How would you decide that a potential use case in public sector or government is not something you want to help implement?